Welcome to Grace on Fire, bravely creating with wild abandon that which sets our hearts on fire. And I am so happy. I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed getting to know this amazing woman, Mary Crafts, is so fun. Wait till you find out more about her. Wow. And so we're so excited to introduce to you and let our hearts be set on fire by Mary Crafts. Welcome, Mary Crafts, to Grace on Fire. How are you doing today?
Oh, Grace, what a delight to be here with you. And I love the idea of that by our conversation, we will set not only ourselves on fire, but the lives of your listeners. And I'm just excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for your contribution to the listeners to find out about you and be inspired by you and your life and your mission. So I have some questions for you, Mary. Are you
Okay,
ready
I'm
for
ready.
question number one?
Yes.
Okay. Mary, your life has been one transition after another. What would you say are your three greatest lessons that have helped you move to where you are today?
I was thinking about that today, about my transitions of life. I was born and raised in Iowa in a small town of 250 people, and no one in town had a college education. And so when my parents wanted us to go to school, it meant we were leaving that little town and we weren't going to be with them. And they knew that, yet that was so important to them. And I transitioned then into college life and then eventually moved away, moved to Utah to complete my education. And then as life goes on, you transition into being a mother, being a wife and a mother. And then when I realized that my husband was bipolar and not ever going to be able to hold down a job, that the support of this family fell to me. And so then it was a matter of transitioning to being an entrepreneur, to raise and to care for them, my children, so I didn't have to give them a daycare because my husband was not able to do that either. And then to transition from being a full-fledged entrepreneur to being, a mega career person in that part of my life. And then, of course, you get to be a grandmother eventually. And then eventually I did end that marriage. It was so much domestic violence and abuse. And transitioned then into finding the real authentic me and what that looked like and who I was. And oftentimes people say to me, how did you do that? What lessons, what foundations did you like go back to school and how to transition and live in your real life? I'm like, well, not really. We are all given gifts. And we don't often recognize them and we don't often embrace them. But I was able to recognize mine and embrace them. And the first one, I realized if I was going to survive this marriage, and if I was going to be able to release the things of my past that I had brought into that marriage, the number one thing that was important was for me to learn to be accountable for my own life, to not use excuses, to not play victim. And as we all learn accountability, the world begins to open up, because if we don't like where we are or who we are, the good news is we can change it. If you're accountable, if you're a victim, you can't change anything. And the second piece that I think was a huge thing for me, and this didn't happen to me when I was really 50, and I'm now 69. So I've kind of been 19 years living in this space of understanding how fear had controlled my life. I was so afraid of so many things: rejection, failure, to not be accepted. I was afraid of being laughed at. I was afraid of so many things. And so imagine a life where every decision that you make is based on fear. How could you possibly be making right ones? And as I recognized that in myself, I began to realize, well, how do I change that? what do I do to have that be different? And it became so clear to me that the only way to replace fear is with love. And it had to begin with me, to learn to actually love myself, not that perfect made up person who I was trying to be, but the real authentic me. And I don't think that we have the ability to let go of those fears until we're really willing to stop hiding. And I've written a book, and it's called Unbounded: From Sorrow to Summit. And I think that's the greatest thing I say in the book, where I say the healing starts when the hiding stops. And as long as I am hiding, I cannot heal. As long as I am hiding the person that needs to be healed. And to allow that vulnerability to open, and the beauty of that. And then the third greatest lesson that has helped me transition and will continue to help me transition, probably from now until whenever I move into the next life, is that the one thing that we are all about, and I think we miss in this life, the universal dream of humankind. And I believe the universal dream of humankind is oneness. That I am you, and you are me. And I'm not wanting us all to be identical twins and same. I mean, that would be pretty chaotic, a whole world of Mary Crafts. Please. But that we're unique, but yet the same. We hurt the same, we feel the same, we have heartbreak, we have joy, we have laughter. And where the world has taken us is to separateness. And so the more that separateness lives, the more that separateness thrives, the more apart we are. So when you see the vision of one and what that looks like, then I am more committed now than I ever have been to bring oneness into my life. And those are probably the three greatest lessons that have helped me transition through so many pieces in my life.
Wow, Mary, I am already moved and deeply, deeply transformed inside just by your message, that those three things, to have you review your life and all those amazing transitions through human life, and the trials and challenges. Your husband, I'm sure, this it's been trials, and then those lessons, the lessons that you bring forth. And I love the accountability. I love them all. And the first, what was the first one again?
Accountability. We're no
Was there,
longer, we cannot play victim.
right? Was there one before that?
Not really. It's kind of that accountability and then
Accountability.
learning the grip of fear.
Okay, there you go. The fear. Okay, got it. Accountability, the fear, and then oneness. Those are the three, those three, just to bring those into awareness, and then to bring ourselves to this place of, like you say, being our authentic self and having the self-love, being able to be the vulnerable people we are, so that we can come together. And the immediate vision that I got in my mind, I know John gave it to me immediately, it was so beautiful when you were talking about oneness, was an octopus with as many little tentacles as there are humans. And the octopus was the oneness, and the very tip of the tentacles were little human beings. And we think we're separate, but we're really not, like the aspen grove and all of that. But I want to go on to your next question. Any tips for our listeners as they look for their true, authentic self?
That is such a catchphrase now. If on social media you use the hashtag and you just even begin to type in AU, immediately 100 variations of authentic self come up, because everybody is hashtagging authentic self. And that's the cool thing to be right now. But you and I have been around this planet enough times to know that authentic self And the striving for that has been something that's been with us since the beginning of time. It's not new. It's not a catchphrase. It has always been the quest of this life. And so as people look, well, how do I know my authentic self? How do I find that person? How will I recognize her? And you cannot recognize or find your authentic self in the presence of what I call the whip. The whip we use to punish ourselves, the whip we use to keep us in place, the whip we use to hide our flaws, the whip that says you must stand tall, you cannot cry, the whip that says, oh, you're never going to be good at that, the whip that says, you're always going to have thunder thighs, you know. I mean, the whip that says whatever to us, and we hold tight to the whip. You find your authentic self by dropping the whip. For the first time, nothing beautiful grows in the presence of the whip. You find your authentic self when the first time you can crack the crack and let someone in. If you can let someone else in, then perhaps you can see within. It's time to stop hiding. That's how we find our authentic self. And the healing from all those years of the whipping, which began with our parents, they didn't know. They thought that was what parents did. What's wrong with you? Why in the world are you doing that? And of course, we didn't know. We just whipped ourselves. I don't know. There must be something wrong with me because I'm doing that and my parents hate it. So, you know. But the joy is that we get to choose something different and to stop whipping ourselves. And as you step into the authentic self, the thing that comes and that happens is this gift of self-love. And I also went through a huge transition in my life where finally at age 50, and I realized how much fear I had been living. And I realized that I didn't want to live this way anymore. And I went from 284 pounds to 140.
Wow.
It took me about 6 years. And to be honest with you, I did not really do crazy diets or surgery or pills or anything, but it was the desire to let my true self be shown. And as I stepped into that authentic self, I just naturally made better choices. I naturally spent more time out in nature. I naturally did all these things rather than using the whip to tell me that I needed to get out there and I needed to eat better. And the whip was not working. But as I began to love myself and step into that, and I dropped the whip, and I began to see that woman that I always thought I had to hide was actually the woman that drew people to me. And that was what people love. Now on my podcast or in my book or when I talk, I do a lot of motivational speaking. And they most love to hear those things where I'm willing to be vulnerable. And I'm willing to show a PowerPoint with me at that weight. I'm willing to show a PowerPoint where I'm like, I don't think I can ever wear short sleeves. I've lost all this weight, but I still have arms that go woo, woo, woo. And people say like, well, that's how I am. And when I was able to stop hiding that my husband was abusing me, I didn't stop hiding that till I was 55. When I was finally able to stop that, people came out of the woodwork to be close to me, to find the way, the path. And what I thought was the ugliest thing to hide was actually the thing that I had the most wisdom to share. Mm-hmm. We have to trust that. We have to trust that we're hiding is the most beautiful piece of us. Wow. Mm.
Mm. Wow, Mary, thank you. Thank you. I am just being moved and just touched in a really deep way by your message and your story. And I want to go on to the next question. This is, I mean, it's so funny because the authentic self was really present for me. And then your next question was the authentic self. And so it's just flowing so perfectly. At age 69, do you still have goals of what is next for you? And you look much younger than 69, must I say.
I think that that's really when the end of life happens, whether your physically body passes away, when you stop dreaming. That's the end of life, when you stop dreaming. And now I summited Kilimanjaro a week before my 66th birthday. And when I came back, I was like, I'm going to do an even bigger mountain now. And then as time went on, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. But I still have hills to climb and valleys to walk through. And it's still a sense of adventure. I think that as we look to what's ahead of us, we will always have this sense of adventure. What's next? And how will I embrace it? What is my favorite catchphrase is the one that says, not why is this happening to me, but how is this happening for me? And I recently I moved into this new home and I was putting something away. I was high up on a step ladder, trying to shove it on the top shelf. This was 2 weeks ago. The step ladder went out from underneath me. I went airborne. I'd never been airborne from a fall. I've fallen, but not airborne. And when I came down, my arm caught the dresser, which kind of slowed my fall. My feet caught the bottom rung of my closet clothes, and it broke my fall just enough that when I landed on my back, and then my neck came back and hit my head, I didn't die. I didn't break my back. I didn't have a concussion. I did find out today, I did break one of the little bones, the phalanges that comes off my back, but I'm not paralyzed and I live. So immediately I thought, because the first thought was, what? Why is this happening to me? And then when I heard myself say that, I was like, whoa, how is this happening for me? And it began to me, I was like, so with gratitude that those two things caught my fall and I didn't die. Those two things saved me to live and love another day. And so whenever you feel that you have a purpose in this life, you know that your life is going to be filled with wonderful things. And I don't know what's ahead of me at this point. I just know that it will be full of adventure and full of gratitude and grace.
Wow. Mary Crafts, you are so inspiring. I mean, everything that you have shared is so very inspiring. I think moving from victim to the victim self to the empowered self when you fell and you told yourself, what's happening? Why is this happening to me? And then, why is this happening for me?
Yeah.
How is this happening for me? I mean, when you go, how is this happening for me? That's a whole different state of mind than the victim.
Absolutely.
Why this powerlessness and the whip? That, what a great, I've never heard that before for, that critical self, the judger, whatever you want, but the whip. Wow. What a good distinction.
Well, when I envision the whip, I mean, when you say let go of your critical self, it's kind of in your head. You're up in your brain.
Who is that?
But when you say drop that whip, you can actually see it in your mind's eye. Just throw it as far as you can get.
And the fact that is, it's like you are emotionally whipping yourself.
Absolutely.
You're hurting, you're attacking yourself when you listen to that voice of insanity in your mind that is always judging and criticizing, making you wrong, or saying something disempowering. And the greatest mystery is that voice. What is it? Where does it come from? Who is it? It's not me. But we all have it. It's
one of the
human.
greatest. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm going to move over now. I'm going to end our highlight on Mary
Okay.
crafts and join us because we're moving into our conversation and it's going to start right here. We're going to continue right here, right where we're at. And thank you, Mary. It is a joy and honor to know you better, and I am so inspired. Keep shining bright your light. And we are going to move into Grace on Fire conversations with Mary Crafts. And Mary Crafts was just about to say something very important from her highlight, and I hope that you remembered because
I
it's
do.
now go.
I was good. I know exactly what it was. This vision of that we have a whip that we use on ourselves every day, and what that visually looks like to throw it down and walk away from it.
Yeah.
The thing is, people will oftentimes say, well, I'm not whipping myself. It's others that are whipping me. Well, first of all, that's a victim stance. But let me tell you, their whips are powerless if you're not holding yours. Their whips are so powerful when you're holding yours. The only reason their whips have any power is because you've got yours. And their power comes to your hand, and your hand is the one whipping,
Yeah.
not theirs.
Yeah.
So if you drop your whip and their whipping comes, there's no whip to connect to. And you are free from the criticism of others. Drop the whip.
I love it. I love it. And I think that's one of the biggest things is even becoming our authentic selves, as we were talking about in your highlight. And as you be your authentic self, you have to drop the whip and you have to let go of caring what other people think, not in a non-caring, but being in your own business, being
Yep.
autonomous and saying people can, there's all kinds of sources out there. There's all information that's coming at us. People are saying things, there's things, and none of it is personal. And the only way it can bother us is if we allow it. And that's like
Right.
what you say. The only way that what they say can feel hurtful to us is if we have the whip in our hand and we choose to believe
Yep.
what they have to say or take it personal. And people are saying things all the time, and people who are unkind people are saying unkind things to whatever walks by, whoever's in their presence, whoever's in their vortex. And if you happen to get in their vortex and they say something mean, don't take it personal. It's never about us. We're always talking about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. You got it, Grace. Spot on. So
Yeah, and
I'm
I think
anxious to see how your son is here and his presence and essence that is with you always. His words today.
yeah, we'll be directly talking. He'll be directly talking in a little bit. I feel like his presence is always with me, and
Yeah.
he helps me with the things that you were talking about in your highlight. Really been because when he passed, I was in I was in hell. I was grieving. I was barely surviving. I mean, it was hell. It was definitely hell. I lost my son. I lost my baby. I was devastated. I'm still devastated, but I'm happy. I can still have that place inside of me that sometimes I touch and miss him, and I cry. But then there's time. But then 10 minutes later, I can be laughing, and it's alive, and it's okay. It's probably an ongoing healing for the rest of my life. I don't know what it will look like. Grief is a total mystery to me, but talking to him on the other side, which we can all do, we can all talk. We're probably communicating and listening, hearing some of whether it's our past loved ones or our guides or our angels or what, we're listening to them all the time. We shut them out all the time too. I mean, it depends on how quiet our mind is or how racing our thoughts are, is how clear we can hear them. So he's helped me to meditate more and quiet my mind more and go into stillness more. And his basic message, and a lot of what you said is a lot of the basic principles he said, but empowerment is a huge theme in his messages. And raising your vibration, moving, like,
Yes.
and you mentioned in your highlight too, moving, I think it was in your book, going from that rock bottom place, and then and very consciously working with your mind, with your emotions, with your lifestyle to actually be in a state of gratitude, be in a state of love, and have it be authentic, and actually becoming your authentic self, because that's what the joy is.
It is.
We are joy. Our true essence is joy and peace and ecstasy, and it's just about being more and more your authentic self, and you'll just naturally feel those emotions and feelings in that state without even trying.
Right. I think that's when the joy is the biggest, is when you realize, you mean, this is just a gift. This is just part of living. It flows to me like this. I don't have to effort. I don't have to work. It's a gift. That's true joy. Yeah.
And when you begin to live by attraction rather than having to try to promote and force and strive, we've
Square
all
peg, round
been there,
hole,
done
pound.
that, but it's just no fun anymore. And it just gets to a point, well, why do things that don't benefit us, that aren't true to our hearts? Who are we trying to please? And it's like here we are, in our age, and still trying to maybe please our parents, but they're, it's like, who are we trying to please? Right? Just do what we love. Please ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you share, since I don't know a lot of background about your son, and how he came to pass?
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. Well, let me tell you a little bit about my son. Um, well, and these pictures are all around me here. I'm actually in his room. I'm where he passed. He passed about the same spot that I'm sitting in. He had just graduated with his master's degree in finance with a minor in math and philosophy on the International Golden Key Honor Society. He was president of Young Americans for Liberty for 6 years. He graduated at the U. He was president, and he was actually recognized in Washington, D.C. as a global leader for his One World Community, a global movement for peace, for a peaceful, thriving, and free world for all. So I forward that. I continue to forward that. This is part of forwarding it. And he struggled with addiction. He struggled since about his sophomore year in high schools, when he started to use. And it was told to me through, because I got him into a rehab, which was not easy. It took me 6 months of living hell to get him in, but I got him in. That's a whole nother story. He was in rehab for a while, and his father had the same addiction, had the same exact thing. So it's something they said is kind of genetically
A little bit of genetic, you bet.
through the male line. And John, I'm sure his soul chose that uh, experience, that challenge. So he had a challenge all through college, his undergraduate, getting his bachelor's degree. It was in economics. He wanted to end poverty. He was really passionate. He had done, I have a nonprofit, Center for Awakening, which is very big with a lot of these, most of my events are fundraisers for Center for Awakening. I do orphanage schools and villages in Central America. I have for 30 years. John and my daughter have come down with me for years, since they were little, since they've done many projects. And so he was into that economy and let's end poverty. Very, very passionate about it. And it was the summer after he had graduated, and he had actually just bought our family home here, and it was an accidental overdose. Yeah.
Wow.
Just a blink of an eye, and he'd been doing so well. So it was one of those things that was extremely shocking for me. It was shattering, completely shattering of my consciousness, completely shattering. My mother passed, and I was very, very, very grief stricken, cried a lot. Nothing like this. It was just completely different. This was like, I mean, for 3-4 years, I didn't get my hair cut, didn't open mail, didn't go to the dentist. I had no, I was gone. I was like, I was gone. I had no energy. I couldn't literally, like, I'd see mail come in. I didn't, it was post-traumatic stress on top of grief, on top of shattered consciousness. I can't even explain it. It's very hard. And anyone who's lost a child knows it's different than losing anyone else in your life. It's shattering. And so, and I and so I had, so I was in hell, and I talked to him every day. I felt his presence. I talked to him. I channeled. I just kept every day. Just I was automatic writing, nothing special. I'm just, ordinary person, just automatic writing. Whatever thoughts would come, I let them flow. And I still feel, and I still say this to the world, is that I know that I connect with him to give me a message, but it's going through my conditioning, my consciousness, my brain,
Sure.
my past, my filters, all of that. And so its message is going to be, it may not be I will never claim to be an absolute perfect channel ever. I am a practicing channel. I'm a practicing channel, and I will be a practicing channel till the day I transition over to the other side. And hopefully I just get better and better, and able to hear my son's messages better and better. And there's times where it feels like it's just source energy coming through. I just surrender to whatever comes through. He's like my bridge, and just looking for messages of truth, higher truths, and a lot of that's what comes through. That's what comes through for me, and it's helped me greatly. It's risen me from hell, from a very deep, dark grief, very low vibration, where of course everything in my life was reflecting that and falling apart. Shit was totally hitting the fan, and literally, I mean, you wouldn't even believe it, to raising my vibration and practicing. And a lot of my raising my vibration, I give to one thing: just gratitude, repeating thank you, thank you, thank you. When I'm in reaching to the Holy Spirit, something beyond me to heal me, because I can't, do it for me. God, universe, spirit, choose for me for peace. Help me to see this differently. So I turn my life over to God every day. Don't get out of bed until I turn it over. Be you in charge. I'll follow you. Certain your way will lead to peace. I don't get out of bed, and just doing my best.
I love your story. I love the story of your son.
Thank you.
I imagine that in a different life, we were friends. I know his heart. And I see the gifts that he has blessed you with and lifted you. How else does a mother survive the death of a son or any child, other than to realize that his life was given to bless yours?
Wow. I've never really looked at it that way. He does bless me so much
Every day.
that, as much as I try to say to myself, John, I have to trust that you chose this, and it was for a positive, for good, although there's a part of the mother that's like, this is the worst nightmare that could ever happen. Anything but don't take my babies. Don't take
Yep.
my babies. Anything. Don't
Yep.
take my babies. So it's like, how can the world's worst, most traumatic nightmare be a blessing? But I have to, like, through my faith, have to believe that for some reason, we are eternal, and this is an eternal story. We're eternal beings animating through these physical bodies. We've had many lifetimes of animating through many different bodies. And John says, sometimes he'll just say as a joke, you possess many bodies. This one body is not you. We are all infinite, vast, eternal beings. And we're having an experience. We're having a story. We're creating this for our own soul growth, for good, for a positive reason, to serve the all that is. And it's all a mystery. But yes, John has blessed me, and his passing, I I will do my best to make his passing bring good to the world, to make a powerful, positive impact for good. If in my little personness can do that, I will do my best to bring good through my son.
I see that. I see you. I see you doing that. And it's the awakening to the peace you already knew, which was not why is this happening to me, but how is it happening for me? I think you have a glimpse of how this is happening for you and the great gift that he has given.
There's, life is like this, or a spiral, or however, so there's times I feel, so empowered and like, wow, okay, yeah, and then of course, so empowered. And then there's times where I'm not sure, I'm not sure, what is my path? What is my purpose? I'm here. I will forward one more community, you know, as best as I can in honor of my son, but it's not always easy. And
No.
there's times I get discouraged, and there's times I even think, am I supposed to be doing this? And then there's times I feel inspired, and I feel like, okay, yeah. But I've never given up. Everyone who knows me knows I've never given up. But it's that evolution of the sometimes you're on a downward spiral, and you wonder, am I in my purpose? And it goes back to what you had said earlier about being our authentic self and turning into self-love. So I've been trying to really take time to like love myself. Like how, like that's like it's a new muscle you got to use. It really is. It's not listening to that whip, not listening to the whip,
Yeah.
the criticisms, and then how do we love ourselves? How do we love ourselves? And that's that could be a whole podcast we could do. How do you love yourselves in all the ways? By taking good care of yourself, putting the nutrients in your body, exercising, by saying kind things to yourself, by following your heart, doing what you love. And that's been my practice these last few years, is to, get deeper and deeper. How can I love myself? This soul power, this being, this essence, and being authentic, and and how can I be more authentic? Let that authentic self out. So I think we spend so much of our life hiding it, like you say, and pretending. So it's about rediscovering who we are, and then having the courage to to not hide that anymore, and then that self-love, and starting to live that authentic path of self-love.
We have way more in common than you ever imagined, than I ever imagined.
Yeah, and I look forward to getting to know you more. I do. I mean, we have I think that a lot I've been finding a lot of women, as we get to be, crones, let's just say crones on the world, and world leaders, the elders of the world, the wisdom, like the wisdom that was pouring out of you in your highlight. I was just like, whoa, in the whip. And it was just, I was wow, and concise. And we are really here because one of my passions is for the youth. We're really here. I think it's our responsibility to support the youth and to empower the youth. And then that's been a lot of John's messages for humanity, is empowering the youth and humans, all people. But the youth are our future leaders, and kind of as elders of the planet, it's our time to really open up our voice and allow our voice to come out, and to help with the wisdom people who are in need, just like in times when we were in need and someone reached out and had a message for us that we needed to hear, that brought us up. So we're sharing that. We're all equals. We're all those little tentacles on the octopus. We're all one. Divine intelligence is moving through us all. No one's less or better or more or any of that. And
no one's left behind with it. It's sometimes it looks like others might be more gifted than others. And I'll tell you that with those gifts also come great struggle. And the struggle is usually equated to the size of the gift. And And it's easy to stand on the outside and say, well, what about so-and-so? They were born with a golden spoon in their mouth, and they haven't had any troubles, and look what they've achieved, and blah, blah, blah. When you pull the curtain back, you're like, oh, I don't want any part of that. And you shut the curtain again. If we could see everyone that way, we would have such appreciation for the gifts that were given us. And there were times in my life when I would say, there is no way that I would ever have chosen to be overweight in this life. No way. Everybody else gets to hide their problems inside and they don't have to show them. I can't hide mine. Mine are like all over me. What is that? I hate that. But now, in retrospect, and you get to look this way, I'm like, how blessed I was to have that. I saw my former husband the other day, and I walked right up to him and I put my arms around him and I said, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. Because of our relationship and the turmoil, I got to grow. I got to be the person I am today. Without that marriage, I wouldn't be this person. If I had gotten the way I wanted my life to be, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom with a husband that had a great job and just brought home the paycheck, and I just got to be a stay-at-home mom and blah, blah, blah. And not that that's not a wonderful calling, but it would not have grown me past my own inner struggles. And I'm so grateful for every single one of those that came into my life and that are going to yet come into my life.
Wow. Wow. What a powerful, powerful position. What a powerful, powerful position. Whew, we have a lot in common because I was also, well, you had a husband that had a manic depressive and you had to raise your children. But I was a single mom since my children were 2 and 4, so it was basically a single mom their whole life. And so I had to go through, and I wanted so much to be an at-home mom and just be home with my kids all day, every day. And but I went and I worked 7 days a week, and I always usually got home when they got home from school, and I did my best. And then we had the weekends were great because I would have them Friday night and Saturday till about 3. And so I'd work Friday till they got home from school. And then at 3 o'clock on Saturday, I'd drop them off at their dad, and I worked Saturday and Sunday. So, but I had to work to raise, and
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It's not easy raising kids by yourself. And I had no family in town. No, all my family is back east. So it was like, oh boy, you just, so it's not easy, but it's true. You look at all the stuff that we've gone through. And when I was young, I never had a weight problem. I started off kind of as anorexia, and then it moved into bulimia. And so it was more of a self-image, kind of body loathing thing that was just very, very painful for many, many years. And I remember looking through diaries because I was a writer, so I had boxes of diaries when I moved. And I said, so I'll take 30 of them and I'll read. I was just to skim 10% off the top or whatever. And I never got to read much, but I remember in college and I was always slender. It's this silly thing. And I did it in high school. I went on a diet between 9th and 10th grade. Went from 112 to 85 pounds.
Okay.
And I was fainting. I fainted a couple times. And then that moved into like trying to figure out, because I was having a green bean or two for lunch. And, I don't know, I wasn't eating, and I was exercising 24/7. Eat less, exercise more was what I heard is how you lose weight. And then when you take a real driven person, literal, I just exercised more and I ate less. I wasn't thinking health. I lost my period. But then the turmoil came. That wasn't a tumultuous emotional time for me because I'm losing weight. I'm riding my bike. I'm running. I'm swimming. I'm, everything. Losing weight. It was when it went into bulimia. and it went
Yeah.
into body loathing and self-loathing, and that was my struggle. And I couldn't throw up, but I used laxatives, and it went on for years, all through the rest of high school, and then it went through all of, I think it's you know what ended up healing my bulimia, like the point that I can see. I
Wow.
I was with a counselor at the time, as I loved myself enough to get myself a counselor. And he asked me one time, he says, what do you think? What's the thought that comes before you binge? Because it was the binges that would bring me into guilt and self-remorse and all that. And I said that I fucked up, that I messed up, that I ate too much. I might have had, like, a couple extra bites of spaghetti, and something in my mind clicked. Oh, I overate. I ate too much. And then it would turn into a binge, because they were intermittent. I never knew when it would just, like, oh my God. And he says, why don't you just not tell yourself that? And that I remember the first time the thought I was eating spaghetti. That's, I guess, why I use that. I'm eating spaghetti, and I remember thinking, oh, I ate too much, and I just feel that trigger of, like, that guilt coming, and then triggering a binge and a starvation after, or whatever. And I said, no, I'm not going to listen to that thought. And I think I had one more bite of spaghetti, and I just went about the evening, and that was the end of. I've always been conscious of I don't even weigh myself anymore, but I mean, I'm still like, oh, there's some pants that are a little tight, and oh, but I don't really wait. I don't do calorie. I just eat, kind of I have my routine now that I like, and I don't. Food's not a big deal anymore. And I think what I've been healing through yoga, and I have a yoga teacher training ecstatic yoga, and I've been healing my body image and my connection to my body, because it's all
Sure.
about sacred embodiment. And I think going into yoga at that time was what helped me to become, instead of hating my body and loathing my body, and attacking myself with that whip, you say, I just started to appreciate my body, and love it for the size it was. And actually, I actually started thinking, what's this goal about being skinny, skinny, skinny? That's not very attractive. I saw pictures of myself skinny, skinny, and it was like, a curvy woman is a nice thing. I want a little fat in the right places. And so it changed my perspective of, let's be a woman, not
Yeah.
be focused on just being skinny, and be a healthy, vibrant woman instead.
I love that. I've loved all of my time with you, Grace.
Yes.
Unfortunately, my time is over today,
Okay.
but I have loved being with you and listening and learning from you as you learned from me. And that really is what makes the beauty of a podcast, when you have two souls that share back and forth with each other, and then they find community, and they
Absolutely.
see the oneness in each other. I see in you what I see in me. You see in me what you see in yourself. And that oneness is makes it all okay. We're in this together.
Yeah. That oneness. That oneness.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Mary Crafts, Grace on Fire.